Hey everyone, it's John. Welcome back to the channel. Good as always to have you along here with a much anticipated review. This is Jon M. Chu's follow-up to the hit 2024 movie Wicked, and also adapted from the hit Broadway musical. It's Wicked for Good, or Wicked Part 2, a sequel to a prequel to an adaptation that's not necessarily equal to the sequel that's...
Bring me Elphaba's room. So I have proof that she's dead.
Perhaps a change in the weather.
It's gone too far. Haven't you heard? I'm the Wicked Witch of the West.
Okay, so before jumping into this, I want to talk about Wicked Part 1, only because I did a rewatch of that right before coming into this, and it kind of changed my perspective on the whole entire thing.
And he's been thinking, which really worries me.
So I think going into this one, comparing it to the first one, I actually had a few problems with the first one. I mean, overall, don't get me wrong, like there is a lot to take away from that film that is just great. I mean, Cynthia Erivo's performance, we'll get into it here, but there's just like, it's a knockout performance for sure. But I think the biggest thing I saw in the first one, and even comparing it to this one, is there's a lot going on in that first one. I mean, for a runtime that is 2 hours and 40 minutes, you know, you would think there would be enough time, but it feels like very compacted in that way. But I will say this, I mean, the intent is probably to lay the groundwork down. I did see the play way back in 2010 with my mom.
Be popular. I'll help you be popular.
So I know that there is a lot of story beats and a lot of character building and a lot of foundational work that needs to be done in order to help support the back half of the movie. So I give it a little bit of a pass in that regard, but for the most part, I just feel like there's a lot, and they try to kind of take on some deeper themes in that first one that just kind of feel rushed. The other thing too that I really liked about that first one is how quickly everyone really slips into their role. Except for, and I would just say this, and maybe this is because I'm comparing it also to seeing the play, is that Ariana Grande for me takes a while to kind of get there. At the end of the movie though, she does accomplish that feat, but it just feels a little bit forced. I think she's reaching for like a Kristen Chenoweth type of vibe, who obviously made that role famous, but Cynthia Erivo really makes it her own in that first one as well as this one. But by the end, like I said, Ariana Grande gets there.
I don't see why you can't just teach us history instead of always harping on the past.
And it got me thinking, what does a first movie need to do in order to make a successful franchise or help support the second one? You know, we've seen it time and time again where like if they do their job in the first movie, the second one is only set up for success. Batman Begins versus The Dark Knight, Terminator versus Terminator 2, even Star Wars versus The Empire Strikes Back, and of course my personal favorite, Weekend at Bernie's to Weekend at Bernie's 2. Okay, that one might be a stretch, I'll give you that much. Ultimately, I think that's the intent with the first film. It has these great production numbers, the music is a lot lighter, the tone is more uplifting. I would say even the vibrancy and the color of the actual film itself is a lot more saturated. All that to say, I think Wicked Part 1, which does stand on its own to an extent, but really does its job to help serve this one and help this one shine, because this is a much stronger film, for sure. It's a little bit darker, there's still some levity to it, but ultimately I think that the themes that they're going for, the tone, everything kind of hits a little bit better here, and I think it just feels like it has more time to breathe. And talk about a great performance, it's not even to say Cynthia Erivo, this is a great performance. Not only is this a star-making performance, but this would easily be considered like a career-defining performance. And all of my reservations about Ariana Grande's performance in the first one are kind of laid to rest in this one by the end as well. She puts out a very strong character arc, a very strong performance. This is probably the best I've ever seen her in anything. We know she can sing, we know she can act, but this is definitely a new level. It really takes a strong dynamic performance. Cynthia Erivo gets there a lot quicker, but watching actually compared to the first one to this one, Ariana Grande's transition as she kind of rises to the occasion and then gets on her level, I mean, it's pretty cool to watch. And if you love process and backstory and peeling back the layers, this movie is it. Do you even need to see the original Wizard of Oz to kind of understand and put the pieces together from Wicked 1 and 2? Not really, no. The movie does a great job about creating a well cohesive story that is connected through line between the two films, but man, you would be really doing yourself a disservice if you had not seen the original, or at least had it fresh in your mind. It is such a classic, and honestly, that is what made this second one so great. to watch. Like, if you know the story beats and are familiar with it, truth be told, my mom loved that movie and made me and my brother watch it like a few times. So I was very familiar with it. So it's really cool to watch it and see like the backstory. I mean, I know that's what the first movie is. It's kind of the backstory of the characters of Wizard of Oz, but man, this one really kind of gives you a lot of fan service, but I'm here for it for sure.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
And one thing that I actually really liked about this movie was that it both metaphorically and literally lays down the groundwork for what we would know to become the Wizard of Oz. And I love movies that kind of show backstory on like how we got there, how everything came to be. That's probably why I'm a big Star Wars fan, because that's a complete picture inside and out. There's something to be said about looking at a movie from a different angle, or trying to take something that you know of or have a preconceived notion of and saying, how about trying it from this prism or from this perspective? I don't know. I think that's also why we kind of like time travel movies and movies like that are so successful, is because there's always a different way to look at it. You may think you know the story of Wizard of Oz, but hey, maybe you could see it from this side instead. It's cool to kind of see like, oh, that's how this would tie into that, and that's how these pieces kind of fit with those pieces, you know, kind of building the brickwork to help you get to what would eventually be the Wizard of Oz. And that is just kind of a really cool journey. This movie also feels like its own movie. I mean, even just tonally, visually, everything. Like, the first movie is a very much a spectacle in the sense of being like fun, vibrant movie musical, and this not necessarily feels darker, although yes, it is darker and looks a little bit darker here and there, and tonally it is dialed down a little bit, but it does feel like its own movie, and that is actually for better, or for good in this case. And although Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are the focal points, it still feels like an ensemble cast, especially when you start to get into like Jeff Goldblum's character, Michelle Yeoh, a lot of the supporting cast members. It does feel like this ensemble big cast of characters, and that is great because both the play and the movie Wicked, they are all here to support Elphaba's character, and this movie, this second half, really relies on her alone and has to push out a strong performance to even make this movie work at all. But that's not to say Ariana Grande doesn't have anything to do here. She is so vital to this story and critical to the character development that Elphaba goes through, and in order to shape the narrative and know the story that we come to love of the Wizard of Oz. I felt like this was kind of a roll of the dice casting move, and totally paid off. I mean, it you almost can't even picture anyone else in this role at the end. And you know what? On top of that, other supporting performances like Jeff Goldblum, who is always like Jeff Goldbluming it up, and oh, trust me, he's Jeff Goldbluming it up in this movie.
Now eventually you do plan to have dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right?
I love to see that we get all these different iterations of him throughout his career, and he's still pulling in great just character work like in this, and I felt like we didn't really get enough of him in the first one, or at least enough backstory in the first one. Well, you kind of get all that in this, and once again, this is just kind of seeing it through the lens of having just watched the first movie and now just seeing Wicked for Good. I feel like everyone who didn't get enough in the first one really gets enough in this one. So, you know, it's hard to judge it between like, oh, this movie is better than this one. Could the first Wicked Part 1 work as a movie itself? Yeah, I guess it could. You might feel a little bit jaded if you didn't get a sequel, but the fact that we do have both of these, it's like they only really work unless you have the other. But having them both together, it's like, oh, everything really makes sense and everything feels like a more complete picture, I would say. And for a film that's adapted from a musical that's over 20 years old, I feel like the themes, the narratives, and the story beats and the messaging that they're trying to convey, some are a little bit more subtle than others, but it does deal with a lot of heavy themes such as like identity politics, propaganda, authoritarianism, and I think some of that subject matter and elements they try to hit on in the first one is not as successful, I would say, or feels forced, is because this one, the tonal shift is so much different that it kind of leans a little bit better into exploring that subject matter. It feels like it's more earned here than it was in the first one, and that's why the movie itself feels tighter and stronger than the first. And one thing I just want to call out really quick is the directing from Jon M here. I mean, this is incredible. It really is great. It's no small endeavor to actually put together a movie musical. I mean, there's so many working pieces involved, obviously choreography, music, but even production design in this is incredible. It's a nice balance of both practical practical effects and CGI. You can tell there's some stage work done here that is just really detailed and meticulous to kind of drop you into the world of Oz, and compared to the first one, bringing you into new areas or new parts of the world, and even how that is tied into the Wizard of Oz so seamlessly. Jon M is for sure gonna get a Oscar nomination for this. The original Wicked, 10 nominations. I feel like this is gonna get way more even, because there is just more involved in this film, I would say, even than the first. So that's something to look out for as well, and something I think you could take away from and just appreciate it even as a casual moviegoer. But ultimately, why I think this film is gonna be so successful in this franchise in general is it's multi-generational. I mean, depending on where you are in the actual timeline of like how much you know about Wizard of Oz, you know, Wicked and Wicked for Good stand on their own, but I would say, you know, there's a whole generation like myself who their parents made them watch The Wizard of Oz, and even their parents who watched it when they were kids, they have something to attach onto here, and the themes are overall universal. I think that is why this is striking the right note with people. But I will say this, walking out of this, there's something else I'm not seeing too many people talk about. I think movie musicals just have a different vibe to them. Whether it's a modern day movie musical or harkens from the past, there is something about it that kind of makes you feel nostalgic in a way. I mean, I grew up watching like Willy Wonka, we saw the original Wizard of Oz, you know, Mary Poppins, those type of movies, and they just have a different feel to them. And I think people are reaching for that kind of nostalgia for sure. And it just kind of is uplifting. I mean, this was an early showing, so maybe that's why, but people in my audience were clapping after some of the musical numbers, and definitely towards the end of the film, you could hear people like really engaged with it. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes that's something you could only achieve with a movie musical. Yeah, I think we could get more of them for sure. I think it makes for a theatrical experience that's a little bit more than just going to the movies. But with that being said, where would I put Wicked for Good on my scale? Well, I never got to rate the first one. I would say Wicked Part 1 because of the production value, because of everything involved, and how it sets up the second one really changed my perspective on the whole thing. I would give it probably an 8. I would give this Wicked for Good an 8.5, and I would give the original Wizard of Oz a 9 because it is a classic, and it's really cool now to see it through a different lens. I feel like all of these movies complement each other extremely well. If I were to do a rewatch, I would do Wicked, The Wizard of Oz, and Wicked for Good. But that being said, did you like Wicked for Good? Do you still think Wicked, the stage production, is better? Or what is your favorite movie musical of all time? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. Thank you again for coming along with me, and I will see you guys all at the movies.
Here to perform the Oscar-nominated, gorgeously empowering song, Let It Go, from the Oscar-winning animated movie Frozen, please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.